is a show dedicated to give way to your say on current events. Our show documents events, sheds light on the perspectives of international figures on them, and gives a regular person, wherever they are, a platform to speak. Today on Your Say, we'll be tackling the latest developments that took place here in Egypt. Dr. Shawi Ibrahim Abdel Karim was elected as a new Mufti, hailed the role played by Dr. Ali Goma, the outgoing Mufti, over the past 10 years. He pointed out to his efforts in developing Al-Ifta. Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Sheikh Ahmad Al-Tayyib, is due to submit a recommendation of the top clerics to President Mohamed Morsi to appoint Dr. Shawi to succeed Dr. Ali Goma, whose term ends by the end of this month. The President is then expected to issue a decree regarding the appointment. Shawi Ibrahim has been elected as the Mufti of Egypt top cleric, succeeding Dr. Ali Goma, who has occupied the post since 2003. Islamic scholars chaired by Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Dr. Ahmad Al-Tayyib, picked him, Ibrahim, as a professor of Islamic jurisprudence of Tanta University as a nation new Mufti from a short list of 3 other candidates. The candidates were nominated by a special committee that was especially formed from the grand scholars for that purpose. The Mufti is empowered to issue opinions or fatwas on any matter influencing legislation on social and cultural issues, public behavior, and court rulings. The Ministry of Interior announced that protests in front of Al-Ittihadiyya Palace marking the 2nd anniversary of former President Hosni Mubarak ouster last Monday started peacefully before turning into violence. The ministry noted that some of the protesters tried to remove the barbed wires and threw stones toward the palace. The statement said the security forces intervened using tear gas in an attempt to protect the palace and push the protesters backward. A day earlier, people staging a sit-in in Tahrir Square closed off the Tahrir complex. The incident followed calls on a number of social media sites for civil disobedience. Closing of the complex caused massing by citizens outside the complex, and verbal fights were reported between the citizens and those closing the complex. The protesters are demanding the resignation of the government and the public prosecutor and forming a national salvation government. The public prosecution in Alexandria decided last week to put 31 people under custody in connection with unrest in the city during the weekend. They are accused of attacking police during clashes that erupted before the Sidi Gaber police station days earlier. The prosecution started hearing accounts from police officers and 2 soldiers wounded in the incidents. Accusations leveled against the arrest suspects include blocking traffic, attacking police, and destroying public properties. Meanwhile, in the city of Tanta in Gharbiya Governorate, security forces were in control of the situation in the city, the scene of the violent clashes with the police on days before. The main street parallel to the sea line adjacent to the university hospital were reopened afterwards. They threw Molotov cocktails and pelted stone at security forces in an effort to force the authorities to release people arrested during riots that erupted on the 8th of February. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Interior has refuted claims a number of Central Security personnel are on a rebellion. The ministry also said reports on social media sites that a number of Central Security personnel are abandoning their positions to protest the ministry policy of not arming them during the clashes are completely baseless. The Shura Council last week began discussing a number of issues and the need to issue new laws. The discussion centered on the latest violence incidents in Egypt, as a number of MPs have demanded discussing means to end the bloodletting during the protest. They are also discussing ways of preserving state institutions and offering circumstances that allow for achieving political and economic development and attracting investments. Minister of Antiquities, Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim, refuted claims that a fire broke out in El Karnak temple. He said that there was a fire, a small one, in a vacant area a long way from the temple and was put off swiftly. Dr. Ibrahim called on the media to check the accuracy of the news before exchanging them to avoid publishing false news, which would negatively affect the tourism sector, a sector of great importance to the whole world. The minister said that El Karnak temple is currently attracting 60,000 tourists of different nationalities who enjoy the sound and light show in the site. The Egyptian Chambers of Commerce in Alexandria are exerting more efforts a day after the other to push forward the private sector. To achieve this aim, the Chamber hosted recently an American delegation representing a number of American organizations specialized in cooperating with the private sector in funding trade and industrial projects.
Today we're here and I'm very grateful to the government and the chamber to help facilitate this project, but to try to give more exposure to the programs we already offer. And one of the most important is a program to provide financing, or rather guarantees for financing for small and medium-sized businesses, which in any economy is the biggest generator of employment. But we also have programs from our Export-Import Bank, from Trade and Development Authority, which does feasibility studies for larger projects. We have programs from Overseas Private Investment Corporation, but the one I'm most interested in, and I hope these young people will take advantage, is a program for financing for small and medium-sized businesses.
Among the U.S. organizations which visited Alex on the 5th of February were the U.S. Agency of Trade Development, USTDA, the Ex-Im Bank, the USAID, and others.
كل المشاريع في مصر في احتياج.
All projects in Egypt are in need of the American support, as there are programs presented by the U.S. governmental institutions in the technical methods or visibility studies. Today, we are concentrating on the Egyptian workers, their needs, their capabilities, how to help them in invading markets of labor inside and outside Egypt. The gathering also listed the facilities offered by the Egyptian government to the Egyptian and foreign investors.
بالتنسيق مع الصندوق الاجتماعي.
The governorate, in cooperation with the Social Fund, is helping the minor and medium projects, as they can play a big role in the economic process and progress in any country, especially in Egypt, in this critical period of its history.
تقريبا جميع التراخيص.
The meeting of the Egyptian Chamber of Commerce and U.S. business delegation marks another phase of mutual cooperation. Nermin Abdurrahman reporting for Nile TV International. Prime Minister Dr. Hisham Qandil asked the World Bank to provide Egypt with the financial aid to promote the country's great structure. The Prime Minister's remarks came during his meeting with the World Bank Executive Manager in Cairo last week. Attending the talks were the Ministers of Finance and Planning and International Cooperation. Qandil briefed the European guests on the government efforts to provide basic needs to citizens and its plan to promote the quality of services. He also called on the World Bank to support the Egyptian government and contribute to finalize and financial support for the country's general budget. For his part, the World Bank official expressed the bank's keenness to assist Egypt in its current critical stage and to help the government in facing key economic and challenges such as unemployment and the decrease in the foreign reserves.
Egypt's finance minister has said the government will complete the revision of its economic reform plan this week and invite the International Monetary Fund to visit Egypt soon. The remarks were made by Finance Minister El-Morsi El-Sayed Higazi on Thursday and published in English on the ministry's website on Monday as a news release. Egypt's government signed a preliminary agreement for a $4.8 billion loan from the IMF in November, but the formal signing was delayed after political strife forced it to postpone a number of measures deemed necessary for an agreement. The minister said Egypt was waiting for concluding the revision of the economic and social reform program in light of the developments witnessed in Egypt and the recent package of tax amendments. Egypt's economic situation was also high on the agenda of a visit by President Mohamed Morsi to Germany in late January. During the visit to Germany, Morsi said he hoped for economic growth of 5.5% next year and of between 7 and 8% in subsequent years. Morsi, whose one-day visit to Berlin is aimed partly at reassuring Western investors about economic prospects for Egypt, also said he saw around 750,000 new jobs being created in Egypt on an annual basis. The World Bank recently forecast economic growth in Egypt of 2.6% this year and of 3.8% in 2014, rising to 4.7% in 2015.
Minister of Electricity and Energy Engineer Ahmed Imam held talks with a committee formed to review a plan to solve power problems that erupted during last summer. The minister said that his ministry is preparing a plan to promote the power sector through adding 2,800 megawatts to a number of power stations in Banha Giza and El Ain al-Sukhna. According to the plan, production rates at power stations across the country will be increased and maintenance work will be carried out on the lighting systems of streets and government buildings.
Under the title Dialogue Not Clash, the International Book Fair is held. 25 countries, including 17 Arab countries, participated in this fair. The International Book Fair is one of the greatest cultural events in the Middle East. The book fair aims at creating a culture of reading on a wide scale.
معرض القاهرة الدولي للكتاب بهذا العام في دورته ال44.
This is the 44th round of the International Book Fair. There are many important issues tackled this year. There are also debates held between various parties that have different points of view. We try to reach through dialogue a meeting point in order to solve the current problems. There are also workshops held for children. These workshops include discussing a number of stories and novels. We have the entire works of Salah Jahin and Tharwat Okasha. The revolution played a great role in the selling of books. Most people prefer to buy political books rather than literary ones.
اشتراك الشباب في كافة محاور الندوات المعرض، إنما عندنا نشاط يومي لمدة ساعتين فقط ملتقى للشباب.
On the sidelines of the International Book Fair, a seminar about the creation of women is held. Many writers and poets took part in this seminar. The seminar discussed the achievements of women in different fields and how women acquire the highest international degrees in various fields.
النهارده عملنا موضوع طبعا بدعوة من الهيئة العامة للكتاب والدين.
I'm so happy today. It's my first participation in the International Book Fair. I was invited by the General Authority for Books. The seminar is entitled The Creation of the Egyptian Woman. The Egyptian woman is a role model that should be followed. The Egyptian woman has done a lot for the sake of her society. I believe that Egyptian women have achieved a lot, but they still need and have to do more in order to achieve all their goals and dreams.
The seminar also highlighted the importance of poetry. Poets said they could solve any problem through their writings. They added that poetry is the language of soul which can overcome any crisis.